first I'm gonna direct this one to Sammy first, but I still need to work out how to ask it to you, Don, because you don't have children, right?
Okay.
But Sammy, take yourself back to that moment. I don't know, how many children have you got?
One.
One child, right? So
Yeah.
The first moment is it boy or girl? I can't remember if you said.
Go.
Right, so you've got a girl,
Yeah.
right? So the first moment you held your daughter, if
Yeah.
you could go back in time and speak to that Sammy there, that first time he's looking down at his daughter, what three bits of advice would you give that Sammy?
Oh, mate, it was only a year ago. But what I would say is like she's her own person, you know, like you are there to provide guidance, you know, a bit like, you know, when they put the little bowling things up for the little kids so it doesn't go in the gutter. That's your role, you know, to keep them from spiraling off. But they set the pace, they set the power that they roll down that alley with. And your job is just to direct them. So that would be the first one. The second one is she's of you, but she's not you. You know, this idea that they have to be our carbon copy and complete all of the things that we didn't do. It's like, I did a post about this some time ago. It was like, as a parent, you need to own your L's so you don't force them onto your children to complete. It's like, okay, you never did kickboxing. All right, that doesn't mean that your daughter has to do it to make up for your failure. Like, if you want to learn how to kickbox, go to the class, you know? So that would be the second one. And then the third one is like, for me specifically, you know, trust your wife. Me and her are in this together for her best benefit. And that's why I think the institution of marriage is very important, you know, because you're two people who have to try and navigate another human life. And it's better when you do it together with a united front. So those would be my three things that I would say to Sammy a year ago. Because I didn't even know that a year ago. Yeah.
All right. Now I need to I'm still trying to think. But what I will say, I'll use something that you kind of said earlier. That example that you gave about, you know, the person that headbutted you, blah, blah, all of that story there, right? So same kind of similar question. You go back in time and you've spoken to your brother, obviously, and your brother's told you what he's told you, right? But you're obviously still like hothead, like nah, There was obviously a moment until you kind of calmed down. But you come back and you spoke to that version of yourself. What three things would you say from your vantage point now?
So I would say that it's really weird. Like when I was in school, they kind of were like, oh, the clothes that you wear currently, when you get older, they're not even going to matter. And I would tell myself that this situation in years, although it shapes who you are, the outcome of it, you know, in terms of you becoming so rallied up or riled up by this, it doesn't even matter. You know, like the way that your mind will develop, the way that you will grow as a person, this incident is just an incident in many incidents, you know. And so I tell myself that, you know, all this time that you're spending getting vexed about it, you know, getting aggy about it, wanting to call this person, inconvenience that person from their day just because of your pride and your ego, you know, there's so much more that's going to develop. I would also tell myself that, you know, that's not always the way to handle the situation, you know, because there's a lot of, I mean, I've had to do a lot of work on myself, and a lot of people help me to do a lot of work on myself to understand, you know, how to suppress certain levels of anger within myself. And I would tell myself that sometimes fighting is just not it, you know, and it's okay to just walk away, you know. It's okay, like he headbutted you, yeah, whatever, you know, you just go inside, it's done. That's the whole thing done, you know. You just walk inside, you close the door, you know. whatever they think of you is whatever they think of you, you know. And lastly, I'd tell myself that this is just part of an even bigger journey. So focus on the journey, you know. Focus on the fact that you kind of need to be alive to get to the end of your journey. So, you know, let's try and do as many things as possible to avoid you dying prematurely. You know, because in the essence of things, you know, nobody knows, kind of like, your days are numbered. Nobody knows when you're gonna pass away or when you're gonna die, and you know, you trying to accelerate it with situations of aggression and madness, you know, is stupid. You know, that is dumb. So yeah, I just told myself, you know, those three things. I think I'd keep myself a bit more centered, a bit more grounded, and I think that it's a luxury for people to see other people frustrated and aggressive, you know. And it's an interesting thought, especially since, yeah, because we pay for boxing. We pay to watch UFC. They put on those big fight nights and all the rest of it. Well, angle yourself in the correct way, my king. You know, like, show yourself as, all right, you see this level of aggression. No. You look, there's an unlock key to this, you know. You see that unlock key? That costs 7 mil. You know, you ready to pay the 7 mil to see me vex and stuff? Because the stuff that I could lose as a result of it is much more higher. So, you know, I would tell myself these things and make it so that if you want to see that side of me, it's readily available. But you know, you got a bit of unlocking to do. You got to pay the price to win the prize. So no, and it's much more of a school of thought that I have now. So yeah.
Powerful. Appreciate both of you. One last one, I think, and then I'll let you go. I know you must be like, I didn't expect to be on this for this long.
It's been good though, man.
Yeah,
it's been good. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna go straight back to you, though. Just what I'm gonna ask both of you similar questions, the same question but packaged kind of differently, which is, and only because you said your brother's more of the reader, so I'm gonna pose it a little bit different to you. I'm gonna ask you for 3 recommendations of, I'm gonna say, media.
Okay.
For me to check out, and obviously we don't know each other, but we've been talking for a good little time. So just from your deduction capabilities, 3 things that are really, yeah.
Do you mean like an outlet to get information, or do you mean
any and all of the above? So it could be a book, it could be a YouTube channel, for example, it could be an Insta page to follow, it could be a film to watch, it could be a TV program, a series, whatever. It could be just a website to check out, whatever.
Yeah, cool. So I think that I'm gonna recommend this one, yeah, because it's kind of personal to me, and it's also quite personal to Sammy. But there's a book full of poetry called "Climbing Clouds, Catching Comets." And just to give a bit of background,
saw that on your page earlier. I was scrolling through, and I think I saw a picture with one of you with that.
It's probably Sammy. Yeah. So I would recommend that. The story behind that is a very good friend of mine who died way before his time. He passed away from leukemia. Was it leukemia?
No, stage 4 brain cancer.
Yeah. And what happened is he was a prolific poet, very educated, you know, young black man, commended by Theresa May for a discussion on stop and search, and just doing well. He went to the University of Warwick and he was doing amazing stuff over there. And unfortunately, his life kind of came to an end. He was, as I said, he was a prolific poet. So his mom collected all his poetry, you know, put this book together. And I've known him probably since I was maybe about 5 years old. And he was, you know, some of the thoughts in that book, like when you consider how old he was when he wrote that, because some of that stuff he wrote maybe were like when he was like 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, I'd recommend that. The second thing, media outlet I would recommend is probably Spotify. Now, most people have Spotify. And the reason why I recommend Spotify is because I'm a massive, massive, massive music enthusiast. And probably one of the things that we didn't say on this podcast is me and Sammy actually used to do music before we started podcasting. So we've always had the medium where we kind of stay together. And when Sammy stopped doing music, we ended up kind of going into podcasting. So I would say that anywhere where people can get music and different types of music is just a blessing. You know, I listen to all different types of music. I've got music that I do yoga to. I've got insane, isn't it? I've got music that
I respect it.
Yeah, I've got
if
music
I could do anything other than touch my toes, I'll be all over the yoga.
You know, I got music that I train to in the gym. Like when I do go to the gym, I've got music that I just listen to in my house. So yeah, that's why I'd recommend that. And then the last one that I would recommend is so all right, this one's gonna be I should have switched the music one. All right, anyway, in terms of Spotify, yeah.
You can give me a bonus.
Yeah. All right, so in terms of Spotify, yeah, Jazz Caris, so shout out Jazz Caris. That's my young sister, man. Like we grew up together.
How do you spell the last name?
Jaz, and then it's Karis.
Okay.
So she's like an R&B and soul singer. Insane. We grew up singing together. My friend had like a community choir, so that's how we met. And I remember like from day it's been like brother sister vibes, innit? And then she's managed to do very well with her career in music, but as not even just as someone who's following her movement, as a massive fan of her music. You know, I would recommend that. Very chill vibes, you know, stuff that you can play like respectably as well, you know. So yeah, like I would recommend that. And then the other one I would recommend is all right, so I've got, because I've always been in media, I would say there's a guy called Enric Elmazi. So it's Enrik and Elmazi, I think it is. I'll see what his handle is on Insta if you give me a minute. So he's someone that I very much looked up to when I was in the media game. And I met him when I was doing some amazing work with, they were called at the time Industries, but they've now changed to Moolah Cake, run by Dexter Sims. So when we met up together, like this guy was like all systems go, like all the time. Like, and I'd never seen someone who was so good at just being able to put stuff together, like in terms of videos, photography. Like it was just relentless, and his work rate is insane. Yeah, so his surname is Elmazi, and the first name is Enrik, and the handle is Enrik Elmazi. So he's a creative director, graphic designer, film editor, and director of photography. And he's just like, I have to commend his work rate, you know, like he's someone that I grew up with. No one was sure where they were going to go at that age, you know. And I remember him working on big videos for people, rendering till like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, and then going back and forth. And he's really someone who taught me about work rate. And he's insane at what he does. If anyone's ever looking for a videographer or someone to design their website, anything like that, 100% recommend him. Coolest guy, one of the coolest guys I know. And I don't always get to check him, you know, but we stay active on social media, just liking each other's stuff and saying yo. So yeah, he's another person that I recommend.
All right, Sammy.
Hello.
I will say is, see, now I'm thinking whether to open up the scope a bit for you, but I'm gonna stick to my original plan, which is free book recommendations.
Okay.
Your brother, I think I'm gonna have to adjust this question because I've just started doing this, opening it up to different forms of media and stuff, and I think that was great. I appreciate you, Don. I appreciate that. But yeah,
no worries,
Sammy, free.
So the first book is a book by a man called Warren Farrell, and it's called The Myth of Male Power. So I definitely recommend that for both men and women, although women may read it begrudgingly. I think it's a fantastic look at a perspective that we haven't really been talking about for a long time. When I was coming through the education system, most of the discussion was about how women have had a very hard time gaining equality, and there was very little sympathy for men, you know. And so I think it's a great and refreshing look at, you know, some of the things that we kind of take for granted, you know, like this idea that I probably shouldn't say this, but this idea that we live in a patriarchy, right? It's like, okay, but who gets incarcerated more? Like, nobody cares when soldiers die. You just call them brave, you know, but they're young men who give their lives. And we're okay with them giving their lives because that's what men are supposed to do, you know. And so he details some of those things. And it's, like I say, it's a very refreshing look at a topic that hasn't been talked about in mainstream media for a little while.
Interesting.
The second one is a classic in my opinion. It's a book called 1984 by George Orwell. And it's a very harrowing book. But like I said before, I think that we always have to be very aware that governments can overstep their mark, you know, and that they use tragedy in order to do it. And that kind of outlays some of the consequences of allowing government to have too much power over what we say and what we do and what could happen as a result of that. So I thoroughly recommend that book. And then the last one is a book called The Fire Next Time, which is actually 2 essays written by a civil rights writer called James Baldwin. And
yeah, I know James Baldwin.
Yeah, and I found out about James Baldwin extremely late in my life. And I think that for all of the conversations we have around, you know, people like Malcolm X and those people who were active in the civil rights in America in the 1960s, James Baldwin is a name that tends to get left out. And he's so articulate and so prolific in what he writes that I think that we do a great disservice leaving him out. So it's important for me to put his work in there and him kind of talking about, you know, race relations and also the church. So I definitely think that's a good read for people.
Okay, and I'm just gonna throw a spanner in the works to you just because someone else has recommended 1984 to me as well. So you need to give me another.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. Well, if you haven't read 1984, another George Orwell book is called Animal Farm. And,
okay, but I've read that one. So.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I've read that one. You have to go back to the well. You have to go back to the well. I've read that. I haven't read 1984, but someone's recommended.
Okay, so you know I'm gonna go totally left of field because I can see you're a well-read man, and what I would suggest is a book written by a guy called Kelly Starrett. It's called Becoming a Supple Leopard.
Okay.
And so this is another thing that's never taught in schools. You know, why it's good to sit properly. You know, having good hip ankle alignment and all of those things, and having good use of your body and just being able to move your body in a way that's going to benefit you when you're older. And that's often overlooked. So that book is a book that I like. I know that a previous guest that you had, Sabian, has that book as well. And so I definitely thoroughly recommend that book. Yeah.
All right. Unless there's anything, what I would say is definitely throw your socials out there, any socials that you want people to know.
Before so you can follow us on Instagram at The Family Podcast or on Twitter at The Family Pod. But it's better to follow us on Instagram because we're way more active on there. So if you want to keep up to us, we direct message people more and that type of stuff. So that's our hub for the meantime until we get the family website up and going. But yeah, definitely Instagram. Shout us.
All right. Okay. Right. Yeah. I think that is it. Kind of thing. Right. Once again, super appreciative. It's finally nice to actually, I would say, put a face to the name, but I've seen your face and but I would definitely say it was good to have a direct conversation with both of you.
Definitely.
Really appreciative. Great content, great conversation. I really appreciate how open you've been. It is exactly what I thought it would be and more. And, you know, I'm going to get you to commit to doing another one at some point down the line. So come on.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
definitely.
Love that. All right. Once again, thanks again. Thanks for giving me too much information. And I look forward to sharing this one with the world. Definitely, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for the time.
Gents, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. See y'all.
Take care, man.